My fiancée lied about her affairs while I saved every dollar for our future, so I walked away silently, and now she regrets everything. Deeply. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and for most of my life, I believed that loyalty was something you proved through sacrifice. That was the code I grew up with: put your head down, work hard, take care of the people you love, and everything else would fall into place. So that's exactly what I did. I worked overtime shifts, picked up weekend gigs, and budgeted my life down to the rupee. Every extra dollar went into a future I was building brick by brick, and for a long time I thought Talia saw that. She was my fiancée, soft-spoken, affectionate, always resting her head on my shoulder after long days and calling me the most dependable man she'd ever met. I remember her laughing once, brushing my hair back and saying, "You're going to be an incredible husband." I can already tell. I absorbed those words like fuel. They made every late-night shift feel worth it. Inside, I carried this picture: a small home with warm lights, 2 kids running through the hallway, Talia cooking while pretending not to burn something again, me coming home exhausted but proud. That dream kept me steady. I genuinely believed we were on the same path to people pushing towards stability, trust, and long-term commitment. But as weeks passed, small things began to shift. Nothing dramatic, just different. She started guarding her phone like it contained national secrets. The way she angled her body when texting, the way she'd flip it face down, even when it wasn't buzzing, it all felt off. And when I gently asked, "Is everything okay? You've been on edge lately," she smiled, a tight little smile, and said, "You're overthinking again." "Don't worry so much." Her tone was soft, but something in her eyes didn't match. And for the first time, I felt the faintest crack run through the future I thought we were building. I wish I could say things went back to normal after that, but they didn't. If anything, the cracks only deepened. Our engagement started out beautifully: family dinners, late-night Pinterest boards, her showing me dresses she liked, me showing her house layouts I saved. She used to grip my hand and say, "We're really doing this, huh?" And I'd smile because back then I believed it with my whole chest. But slowly, wedding talk turned into something she dodged. Whenever I brought up budgets or timelines, she'd wave her hand dismissively. "Babe, you're stressing too much," she'd say. "Let's just enjoy the moment." It didn't make sense. I was the one paying for most of it. I had to think ahead. I started noticing how she avoided financial conversations entirely. If I asked whether she'd transferred her portion of the savings, she'd kiss my cheek and say, "You're way better with money than I am. Honestly, just handle it. You always do." It sounded like praise, but it felt like being pushed into a corner. Meanwhile, her social life suddenly exploded. She began going out more after-work hangouts, weekend team bonding, dinners she insisted were mandatory. Each time, she'd get dressed to the nines, more than necessary for casual nights out. I joked once, "You're going to a restaurant, not a fashion show." She barely looked at me. "It's just how everyone dresses. Don't be weird." The shift wasn't loud. It was subtle, controlled, almost rehearsed. She stayed on her phone constantly, fingers tapping quickly, screen flashing before she angled it away. When I walked into a room, she'd lock it instantly, slip it into her pocket, or flip it face down on the couch. One night, I walked past her door and heard her whispering, low, urgent. I caught a name I didn't recognize before she cut herself off, and for the first time, a cold, uneasy doubt settled in my stomach. One I tried desperately to ignore. I kept telling myself. I was imagining things, stress, overthinking, maybe even jealousy I didn't want to admit. But the human body knows when something is wrong long before the mind catches up. And my gut hadn't been quiet in weeks. One afternoon, while reviewing our wedding savings, I noticed something that made my chest tighten. The balance was lower, significantly lower. At first, I thought I miscalculated. I refreshed the page twice, checked past statements, checked transfers. Everything pointed to the same thing. Money was missing. I waited until she got home, heart pounding, and asked gently, "Hey, did you use some of the savings? Just so I can update the budget." Talia froze. Literally froze, mid-step, mid-breath. Then she laughed in the sharp, defensive way I'd never heard from her. Wow, so now you're policing my spending? I'm not, I said quietly. I just want to understand where the money went. She scoffed, shaking her head. You're obsessed with control. It's honestly suffocating sometimes. Her words hit like a slap. Control. I'd been the one carrying the financial weight for months without complaint. I opened my mouth to explain myself, but she stormed off, slamming the bedroom door behind her. Later that week, a mutual friend let something slip without realizing the impact. Did Talia ever tell you about her backup account? She asked casually. I blinked. Backup account? Yeah, she mentioned she keeps a separate account for emergencies. You know, just in case. Just in case what? Why would she need a secret account if we were supposed to be building a future together? That night, I watched her laugh at her phone, thumb flying across the screen, the glow reflecting in her eyes. When I walked closer, she tilted it away like muscle memory. Something inside me hardened. It wasn't just the money she was hiding. It was a whole part of her life I clearly wasn't meant to see. After the bank account revelation, something inside me shifted. I didn't confront her again, not yet. Instead, I started watching more closely. Not obsessively, just attentively. And what I saw made the air around me feel heavier every day. Talia began pulling away in ways that were impossible to ignore. She stopped sitting next to me on the couch, choosing instead to curl up in the corner with her phone like it was a lifeline. She stopped asking about my day. She stopped sharing hers. When I tried to hug her, she'd stiffen first, then force a smile. Her excuses became predictable. I'm exhausted. Work is insane. We're just on different schedules right now. But the cracks spoke louder than her words. Nights out became the new normal. Coworker dinners, team bonding, girls' nights, after-shift hangs. Every time she returned home, her perfume seemed stronger, her hair slightly mussed, her makeup worn as if she'd wiped and reapplied it somewhere. She avoided eye contact, going straight to the shower before even saying hello. Once, I asked gently, "Everything okay? You seem distant lately." She didn't even look up from her phone. You're imagining things. Stop creating problems. But sensory details gave her away. The lingering cologne that wasn't mine, the faint scent of cigarette smoke even though none of her coworkers smoked, the glow on her face after hours of giggling at her screen, and then the anonymous message came. It appeared in my requests folder late at night. Just one sentence. Check her location tonight. You deserve the truth. My heartbeat thudded against my ribs. My fingers hovered over the message for minutes. I didn't know who sent it or why, but the timing, the tone, the eerie accuracy, it felt like someone was trying to pull back a curtain I wasn't ready to face. And suddenly, the house felt too quiet, too heavy, too full of secrets. The message burned in my mind for hours. I kept reopening it, rereading it, wondering who would send something like that. A jealous ex? A prank? Someone from her job? I tried to shake it off, but the words clung to me like cold fingers around my throat. By 9 p.m. Talia texted, "Late shift. Don't wait up." No heart emoji. No explanation. Just flat. I sat on the couch staring at her message long after the screen dimmed. My chest felt tight. My hands felt cold. Finally, with a deep breath that tasted like dread, I opened her location. I never checked it before, not once, but tonight. My thumb moved before my conscience could stop it, and she wasn't at art. Work. The little blue dot pulsed on the complete opposite side of the city. Near an upscale neighborhood I had no connection to. My stomach twisted hard. I waited 10 minutes. 20. The dot didn't move. I grabbed my keys and drove. The night air felt thick, like the world itself was warning me. Streetlights blurred through the windshield as my mind replayed every strange moment of the past few months. Every lie. Every half-smile. Every "you're overthinking." When I reached the location, her car was parked right outside a high-rise apartment building, sleek. Modern, the kind of place she knew we couldn't afford. My hands trembled as I pulled over down the street. Engine off, lights dimmed. I waited. Minutes dragged like hours. The city hummed faintly around medicine traffic, muffled laughter, a breeze that rustled dry leaves along the pavement. But inside the car, everything felt silent, suffocating. At 7:45 p.m., the building door opened. Talia walked out. Not alone. She was laughing soft. Familiar, a laugh I hadn't heard in weeks. Her hand rested on a man's arm, her body leaning into him like she belonged there. They looked comfortable, intimate, like this wasn't their first night together, or second, or 10th. My breath hitched. Something inside me cracked so violently it felt like a bone snapping. I didn't honk, didn't confront, didn't yell. I just watched the truth unravel in front of me, and it hollowed me out completely. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch staring at the ceiling, feeling my heart beat in places it didn't belong. My throat, my ears, my fingertips. By morning, my chest felt bruised from holding everything in. But I told myself I needed answers, not explosions. So when Talia walked through the door around 7 a.m., smelling like lavender body wash layered over something unfamiliar, I kept my voice steady. Who was he? I asked quietly. She froze for half a second, barely noticeable but enough. Then she scoffed, rolling her eyes like I had asked the dumbest question imaginable. Seriously? You followed me? That's insane. I didn't follow you, I said. I checked your location. You weren't at work. She crossed her arms. A coworker drove me home. I was stressed. Stop twisting everything. Her tone was rehearsed too quick, too confident. Something in me snapped, but not in anger, in clarity, so I asked again, who was he, Talia? She stepped closer, jabbing her finger at my chest. You're paranoid. You're obsessed. You're suffocating me. You always need to control everything. Control. There was that word again. The one cheaters love. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just walked past her, grabbed my jacket, and stepped outside. I didn't even know where I was going until a notification buzzed on my phone. A message from the same anonymous account. You need to see this. Check your email. My stomach twisted as I opened the inbox. There were screenshots, messages between Talia and the man from last night. Dates, photos, hotel receipts. Plans they made while I was at work saving for our future. But the worst part? The timestamps went back months. Long before the engagement. Long before the wedding planning. My hands trembled as I scrolled. And then another message came through. She didn't just cheat with him. She cheated with more than one. My breath stopped. The anonymous sender wasn't guessing. They knew everything. And I suddenly realized this wasn't even the full truth yet. I sat in my car for a long time. Phone clutched in my hand like it was radioactive. I kept scrolling through the screenshots even though every line felt like a punch to the ribs. There were messages from months ago, inside jokes I'd never heard, pet names that made my stomach churn. Plans they made for nights she told me she was exhausted from work. The more I read, the more it felt like my life was splitting down the middle. But the anonymous sender didn't stop there. Another email came in, this time with copies of payment receipts. My bank statements. Charges I thought were wedding-related. Hotel bookings. Bar tabs. Expensive dinners. Ride shares. All tied to dates when I'd been working late, trying to save for our future. I muttered to myself, voice cracking. She used my money. For him. Saying it aloud made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. Inside my head, everything started spiraling. The night she claimed she needed me time. The sudden interest in staying late at work. The defensive reactions when I asked about expenses, it all snapped into a horrifying pattern. I realized she didn't just cheat on me. She built an entire parallel life behind my back, funded by my sacrifice. When I walked back into the apartment, she was still there, pacing angrily. Where did you go? She demanded. I stared at her, feeling something inside me crumble and harden at the same time. I know about the hotel. The dinners. The lies. All of it. Her face strained. Who told you that? Does it matter? I whispered. It's the truth. She switched tactics instantly, voice trembling. You're imagining things. They're fake. Someone's trying to ruin us, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was watching her eyes, the way they darted, the way her throat tightened, the way she couldn't hold my gaze. I saw guilt. Not fear-guilt, and for the first time, I realized I didn't want answers from her anymore. I didn't want apologies. I didn't even want closure. I wanted out, but I also wanted to know how deep the betrayal truly went, and heartbreakingly, I sensed I hadn't hit the bottom yet. I didn't tell her I knew everything. Not the full extent. Not the messages, not the receipts, not the months of betrayal layered over my sacrifices. Instead, I went quiet, completely, painfully quiet. And that silence gave me a kind of clarity I hadn't felt in months. If I confronted her again, she'd cry, manipulate, twist my words, or blame me for being too controlling. But if I left silently, that would be something she couldn't talk her way around. So I began planning my exit with the same discipline I once used to plan our life. Every morning before work, I packed one small thing: a book, a pair of jeans, a framed picture I didn't want to leave behind. I'd slip them into a duffel in my car trunk where she never looked. By day 3, half my essentials were gone. By day 5, most of my clothes had disappeared. She didn't notice a thing. I updated my bank settings, unlinked her access, redirected my paychecks, froze the joint account, and opened a new one she didn't know existed. I replayed her insults in my head. You're controlling. You're paranoid. You're suffocating me. If only she knew how quietly I was disappearing. At home, Talia acted strangely sweet. Babe, let's do a movie night, she'd say, sitting next to me like months of distance never happened. I'd nod, pretending everything was normal. Inside, I felt numb watching her laugh at her phone while resting her head against my shoulder, the same shoulder she lied to. The sensory details stuck with me. The smell of her perfume when she leaned close. The soft click of her nails on her phone screen. The way she angled away just slightly. Out of habit more than caution. She had no idea I was slipping away from her for good. By the end of the week, I chose a date. I circled it in my mind like a silent promise. I would leave right after her birthday weekend. No warning. No confrontation. No dramatic goodbye. Just gone. The week leading up to her birthday felt unreal. I moved through the days like a ghost, calm on the outside, hollow on the inside. I thought I had already felt the worst of it. I thought seeing her with him, reading their messages, discovering my own money funding her double life, that was the bottom. But I was wrong. 2 days before her birthday, the anonymous sender messaged me again. There's more you should know before you leave. My stomach tightened. I didn't want more. My heart couldn't take more. But my fingers still tapped the screen, opening the new file they sent. It was a folder. Dozens of screenshots. Different names. Different men. My pulse hammered against my ribs as I scrolled. Each thread showed the same pattern: flirting, explicit photos, late-night meets, hotel receipts. One man complained she was too clingy. Another joked about how her fiancé must be clueless. The timestamps overlapped. Weeks where she wasn't cheating with one man, she was rotating between 2 or 3. My vision blurred. I leaned back against the wall, sliding down until the cold tile touched my spine. I felt physically sick. Betrayal is one thing. Being played as a fool, as a wallet, as a placeholder that hits deeper, it changes how you see yourself. I whispered into the quiet apartment. How long has this been my life? My voice cracked, and for the first time in years, I cried. Not loud. Not dramatic, just silent tears running down a face that didn't feel like my own anymore. When I finally stood up, I wiped my eyes and looked around. The living room felt foreign. The photos on the wall felt staged. The home I built for us was just a set. A place where she slept between lies. And that's when the rock bottom moment hit. Me fully. She never loved me the way I loved her. Not even close. I was a convenience. A provider. a background character in her chaos. But rock bottom has a strange power. Once you hit it, you stop falling. I straightened my shoulders, and I realized it was time to leave. Her birthday morning arrived colder than I expected. Not the weather, the atmosphere. The air inside our apartment felt strangely still, like it knew something she didn't. I woke up earlier than usual. Standing in the kitchen long before the sun rose, hands trembling slightly as I cooked the breakfast she loved. Eggs, toast, the tea she liked, extra sweet. I plated everything carefully, almost ritualistically, even though my heart felt like a weight lodged under my ribs. When she walked in, stretching and yawning, she smiled at the setup. "You made breakfast? For me?" I nodded. "Yeah, happy birthday." She kissed my cheek, warm and familiar, and for a split second I felt the ghost of the life I thought we could have had. But it faded quickly. Everything about her felt rehearsed, now a performance I could finally see through, as she ate. She chatted casually about her spa day that her coworkers apparently gifted her. "It's from the girls at work," she said, brushing her hair back. "I'll be out most of the day," I managed a small smile. "Enjoy it. You deserve a break." But inside I was already gone. The moment the door clicked shut behind her, my heart steadied. No shaking hands. No hesitation. Just quiet resolve. I went straight to the bedroom and pulled out the last small bag I'd tucked away behind the dresser. The apartment was silent, except for the soft hum of the air conditioner and my own breathing. Every object I touched, a picture frame, a mug, a jacket, felt like something I had already divorced myself from. I left the ring box on the bed. Not dramatically opened, not pointed or symbolic, just placed gently. Beside it, I left a single folded note. 10 words. "Please don't contact me. I know everything. I'm done." I walked out with the last of my things, locked the door behind me, and didn't look back. Not once. Outside, the sunlight felt harsher than usual, but the air tasted cleaner, lighter, for the first time in months. I felt like I could breathe without drowning, and I knew this silence would hurt her more than any confrontation ever could. I thought leaving would feel dramatic, like some movie moment where everything inside me cracked open, and it didn't. The first night alone in my new apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Kept expecting my phone to explode with calls and messages. But it stayed still on the counter, screen dark. For a few hours, I wondered if she hadn't noticed yet. Maybe she thought I was at work. Maybe she assumed I'd be back. But by evening, the storm hit. At 7:14 p.m., my mother called. "Are you okay?" she asked immediately. "Talia just called us crying. She said you left and won't answer her." I took a deep breath. "I'm fine, Mom. What happened?" She said, "There must be a misunderstanding." "There isn't," I said quietly. "Just let it be for now." When I hung up, the relief was bittersweet. The silence after the call filled the room like a thick fog. But then the messages began. Mutual friends, coworkers, even her sister. "She's a mess. She's begging to know where you are. She swears she didn't cheat. Did something happen?" I didn't respond to any of them. By the next day, the tone had shifted. Her affair partners, plural, had apparently realized she no longer had the stability she milked from me. One stopped replying to her altogether. Another texted her something brutal, which someone later forwarded to me. "You said you weren't serious about your fiancée." Don't drag me into your drama." Her world was collapsing fast. A friend of hers even reached out through a voice note. "She's hysterical. She said she made a mistake and you're the only man who ever cared about her. She keeps saying she ruined everything." I listened to the message once. No replay. That night, I sat in my new apartment. The faint hum of traffic outside my window, the air colder but clearer. And for the first time, I realized something. Her regret wasn't about losing me. It was about losing the life I built around her. A life she never appreciated in the first place. The days that followed were strangely peaceful. Not easy peaceful. It was like stepping out of a burning building and finally realizing how long you'd been inhaling smoke. I settled into my new apartment slowly, unpacking one box at a time. The silence didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt clean, honest. I focused on myself for the first time in years. I picked up extra shifts not because I needed to save for someone else's future, but because I wanted to rebuild mine. I cooked simple meals. I slept better, even started therapy. Something I'd put off because Talia once called it a waste of money. One afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I know I messed up. Please. I just want to talk." I didn't respond. I blocked the number. 10 minutes later, another came through from a different number. Blocked. Then another blocked. She was spiraling, reaching out through any cracks she could find. But I was done leaving doors open. Mutual friends updated me without me asking. Apparently, Talia's cheating wasn't some isolated secret. It imploded her life. Someone leaked screenshots at her workplace. Her reputation tanked. The man she was closest with cut her off the moment drama hit. She became the punchline of whispered office gossip. She was eventually fired not because of the affair itself, but because the chaos bled into her performance. People stopped trusting her, stopped involving her in projects, stopped inviting her out, and she kept trying to reach me. Her last attempt came through email, emotional, overflowing with apologies, regret, promises of change. She wrote about missing my stability, my loyalty, my kindness. She said life was falling apart without me. I stared at the email for a few seconds before deleting it. No reply, no closure, no second chance. Because the truth was simple. I didn't destroy her life. I didn't take revenge. I didn't expose her. I just stepped away. And once I stopped holding up the world she lived in, it finally collapsed under its own lies. That was the real ending. That was the justice. And I walked forward lighter, finally choosing myself.